Hello and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the To-Do List. I'm your host, Eric Fisher. This week I'm talking with KC Procter of the new Dad Life Rules podcast. Before we get into that, I want to let you know that I'm very excited to tell you that my new book with Jim Woods is out. Hit the Mark. Improve your focus, boost your energy, and make the most of your time. You know you want at least one, and most likely all three of those things to happen. Head on over to beyondthetodolist.com/focus to grab that. If you hurry, you'll grab the early bird sale pricing. And if you're not a reader, don't worry. The audiobook is included for free, read by me. So again, head over to beyondthetodolist.com/focus to grab that. I also want to let you know that this episode of Beyond the To-Do List is supported by MailChimp. More than 6 million people, including me, that's 6,000,001, use MailChimp to design and send email with the right information to the right people. MailChimp has new automation features to make it easy to provide timely, relevant information to your customers and prospects. You can instantly send welcome emails, product recommendations, special offers, and more. You can personalize your emails based on customers' interests, send emails based on a customer's website activity, and you can provide them recommendations based on their previous purchases. Make sure to go check out MailChimp and thank them for supporting Beyond the To-Do List by going to beyondthetodolist.com/MailChimp. Sign up for your account, check out their tutorials, and again, that URL is beyondthetodolist.com/MailChimp. Guys, I've been using MailChimp, and there's so much more in there to dig into than even I'm doing right now, and I'm already blown away by how powerful it is. You got to try it. You got to go check it out. You got to get on board and get that email list set up. Trust me, there's some things that you can just only do if you have an email list and you're collecting and being able to let people know the right information at the right time strategically for communication's sake. So again, that URL is beyondthetodolist.com/MailChimp. This week I get to welcome KC Procter to the show. Welcome, KC.
Thanks, Eric.
So you are that guy KC, but you've now become KC Procter on Twitter. And yes. I honestly don't remember. I think at some point we connected back in a year or two ago at some point online through John Acuff type stuff, I'm sure. And since then, I've always just, I personally have admired your work ethic, along with a bunch of other people. Yeah, you're welcome. And the thing is, let me see if I can list off. I know you're a guy who has like multiple roles and passions. You just released a new podcast, Dad Life Rules.
Yes.
What's your blog's name?
My blog is just called Life Rules, and it's just at my name.com. So KC Procter. So the letters KC, PROCTER.com.
Okay. And then you're very much a family man. You're very much a father figure. Mm-hmm. And also you've got a couple different positions, and those have kind of shuffled as I've known you. You're still working for Starbucks, correct?
Yes. And
not as like a barista, but in like, because a lot of people, that's instantly where their mind went. You're working for Starbucks corporate.
I do. And I think, first off, caveat, I am not speaking as a representative of Starbucks corporate. Blah, 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 legal speak, all that stuff. But I have...
These tweets are my own.
I've haphazardly navigated myself into a financial analyst role, which is funny because I have an HR background and my wife does the checkbook.
Nice.
So, I've been at Starbucks for about 6 years now and doing all this other stuff on the side. So I'm a man of many interests.
Yes. And so for that matter, I know you love coffee.
Yes.
So working there makes complete sense to me. You're in Portland, aren't you? Because that's where right?
No, I'm in Seattle.
Seattle.
So that's
where I screw that up all the time. Sorry. Still, your neighbor's up there with Chase, who's in Portland.
Yes.
So,
big fan of Chase Reeves of the Fizzle Show.
Yes. Who was just on the show, actually, which that'll come out. People haven't. It's weird because it's not come out yet, but by the time people hear this with you, it's out.
Awesome.
So if that makes sense.
So
It's time travel. Podcasting is time travel. So let's see what else. There's Legos.
oh man, I love Legos. So one of the great things about having kids is that you kind of get to relive pieces of your own childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so my parents, for whatever reason, had kept this giant like Rubbermaid bin of my Legos that I had as a kid. And then when I got married and had kids of my own, they're like, "Hey, we've got this box of Legos." And I was like, "Oh!" And so I was partially torn because, you know, half of me was like, "Oh, great, I get to share these with my kids and build stuff with them," and the other half of me was like, "But these are my toys."
Yeah. So you never learned as a kid to share your toys.
Well, I was an older sibling, and my brother and I were 5 years apart, so we collaborated on the mayhem that we rained down on our parents.
Yes. I'm the oldest of three, so I know how that goes.
There you
all
go.
boys.
Your poor mom.
Yes. Let's see what else. So then your Starbucks job is not the only thing you do as far as income goes. Is that right?
That's correct.
What else are you doing?
So I am also the social media director for our church, New Life, and also the online campus pastor, because we launched our online campus back in February,
Nice.
April.
Okay.
April. So yeah.
You're in that mix as well with social media like me and doing online social media, all that kind of stuff, and now you're a podcaster.
Yes, I am a podcaster. I'm super excited. It's so much fun. It's great to, talk to people and get them excited. And I've been thinking about doing this podcast for a year now or more, and finally just got what I needed as far as technology and equipment to make it happen. Got the first episode out last week, and so far people like it. So I'm looking forward to doing more.
Yeah. Well, so here's the disclaimer here. When Casey and I are done talking right now, we're going to turn the table around and he's going to interview me for his show. So you're going to have to go to, is it dadliferules.com?
It is. Dadliferules.com will take you to the podcast page.
And if you're listening to this in the future, there's that time travel thing again. I'll throw a link to that show as well as my episode in the show notes for this episode.
Excellent.
So that will be fun. And I've listened to the first episode. How many do you have in the can so far?
I only have one in the can, but after this weekend, I'll have 3 more in the can. So I'm trying to, build up that pipeline and get things going. But nice. I really just needed to ship that first one, as Seth Godin says, just ship it. And I think that's just going to be the first domino in what will hope to be a really long series. So we'll see.
Well, I can say this from having listened to it, that you did good.
Thanks, man. That's flattering coming from you.
It really was. Like, I listened to it. It's not, it's not one of those like hour-long episodes. It's like, it's like just shy of a half hour.
I think it's like 35 minutes.
Or
maybe.
It's just it didn't feel long, but it felt like it was long enough. It's a great conversation,
Good.
And I learned stuff, and I thought about stuff, and about being a dad, and about being a father, and family, and all that. So I love that. I love that you're doing this, and so I am encouraging everybody to go check that out as soon as possible.
Oh, thanks, man.
It needs to be heard. So let's get into this. Like, you've got all these roles. Here's the thing. Like, as time's gone on, and I've followed you on Twitter and Facebook and all these things. The one other thing that I did not bring up is that you're always like, all right, I'm off to the gym. And so what's funny is like Jim Woods and I, we were talking in Facebook messages, and we're saying, man, how does Casey do it? Like, he's got, wife and kids and 2 jobs, and is writing on his blog, and this was before the podcast, but now you've added that, and you've got and you're going and working it out, and we're just how is he doing this? How is he getting it all done? And I think Jim said you're a beast. I said, no, he's more like a robot. And then we're like, there's no way. Like, it's got to be seasonal with some of the stuff or something. I don't know. So give us the answer. How? No, I'm kidding. What's your perspective on all these different roles? Honestly, like, give me your perspective, and kind of lay out, do you have kind of priorities? Because obviously you can't be doing all of these things all the time with 100% success. And maybe 100% isn't necessary for success.
Sure. I don't think 100% is necessary. And part of it is I love trying new things, and I like the journey of discovery. I never, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, would you be a social media director for a church or a podcaster or a digital publisher, with, because I've partnered with Church Mag and we publish books now.
Oh, see, I didn't even mention that.
Yeah. Churchmagpress.com.
Yep.
Check it out. I would have laughed at you. I'd be like, you're crazy. But, my day job, I kind of stole this from John Acuff, but my day job is a fundraiser for my dream job. And I'm still trying to figure out what that is. And so it's kind of a journey of discovery as far as trying all these different things out. But when it comes to priorities, it really is, the rhythm between the day job and family stuff. All these other things that I'm doing fit in the margin. And so, you only have 24 hours a day. And so if you're trying to fit side projects in the margin, the only thing you can do is to try and create more margin without sacrificing your day job or, time with family. Because I think people have a tendency to make a distinction between quality time and quantity time with family. And I think that they both need to overlap. You can't be an absentee father and be like, all right, 10 minutes of quality time with the kids before bed. That's not how it works. You can't, I don't know what Tim Ferriss's opinion is on this, but you can't be a 4-hour father.
Oh, that's awesome.
It just doesn't work. You can't be a good dad in 4 hours a week. It's just not going to happen. And so like my son plays baseball, so I am at his games. I'm taking him to practice. I go to my daughter's, ballet recitals and stuff. And, vent the commentary on my phone out to Twitter, and not to the people elbowing me, sitting next to me.
I'm sure they appreciate that, by the way.
Right. Slight sidebar. Elementary school, quote unquote, concerts are torture of an unusual kind. Like, I love my kid and I think my kid is fine. I'm not there to see anybody else. Like, I really don't care about anybody else there. And like, I don't even feel guilty or bad about that.
Oh no. I heard somebody say earlier today, I like my kids. It's everybody else's kids I can't stand.
Exactly.
Although occasionally that actually goes the opposite way.
It's like, I just need, I love you, but we're not talking right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I have 3 kids and their ages range from almost 2 to almost 13. And so there's just this wide range and different, phases of parenting that happen with each of them because they're so spread apart. And with the toddler, it's like negotiating with a terrorist. It's really bad. So like, our kids, I feel very blessed. My wife and our kids are by default, I think, to some point, pretty good. Like, they're not terrors and, super problems or whatever. But like, we're going to the store and like the toddler's bordering on a meltdown because she's, it's late for a nap and she hasn't had lunch yet. And she spots a little box of goldfish crackers. And I'm like, you know what? My sanity is worth $1. You can have the goldfish crackers. Go right ahead.
Yeah.
But I think, with the priorities, it's what's most important and then fitting things into the margin. And then I think the question some people have is, how do you create more margin? And for me, that answer was sacrificing sleep, basically. I've been getting up. It's been getting later and later recently, but for the span of about, I want to say 3 to 4 years, I've been getting up between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. every day.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you officially win the Rising the Earliest award for anybody I've ever talked to on this show.
Yeah, 5 a.m. club, those guys are sleeping in.
Yeah. Well, and technically, you being up at 3 or 4, since you're on West Coast, you're up at the same time as us.
This is true. This is true.
But
I'm just trying to be with
you've
the
got
cool
us
kids.
beat. Yeah. There you go. It's like, I got to get up. They're already up there ahead of me. They're already working on stuff, and I'm not up yet. So, yeah. Okay, so then if you're getting up at 3 to 4, 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning, obviously with having an almost 2-year-old, that can be beneficial to a certain extent, because if you're already up, you can help out with that, or you know what I mean? Like with the nighttime transitional stuff. When were you going to bed, though?
10 or 11.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I'm averaging about 5 hours of sleep a night.
So do you just not require as much sleep, or are you just caffeinating yourself enough to make it through?
I think it's somewhere in between because I get 4 or 5 hours a night, but then, when I'm on the bus, I ride the bus to work, and so I'm catching little cat naps here and there. But on the weekends when, I go to bed 10 or 11, but then I sleep a solid 8 or 10 hours, I wake up and I'm like, wow, I can walk through walls. This is amazing.
So you're making up for it, to a certain extent when you can.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And I have a semi-agreement with my wife that Sunday afternoon, Daddy gets a nap, and I'll conk out for 3 hours straight, but usually the kids are taking naps too, so it's not like I'm stealing time away from the family to make that happen. So, definitely recognizing the necessity to have sufficient amount of sleep, because if you're just tired all the time when you are awake, you're not going to be productive, even if you're trying to get up early so that you can get more stuff done. An hour of work when you're rested beats 3 hours of work when you're groggy and tired.
Oh, that is the truth. I mean, even just the other day, I was up till about 12:30 at night, which is not normal. I'm usually in my bed between 9 and 10.
Oh,
and then
that would
asleep.
be heaven.
I know, right? But I went to bed sometime around 12:30 or between there and 1, and then got up at 6, and I was useless for very short periods of time throughout the next day, where my eyes almost just wouldn't stay open. And I think that was maybe on the tail end of a couple different days like that, where it was, overworking and undersleeping. But it can be, sleep is one of those things where if you just are not getting enough, you start to notice, and you start to forget people's names, because that happened.
Oh, no.
Yeah. No, in college, I once forgot my girlfriend's name because I wasn't getting enough sleep. I was a freshman. Oh, I still remember that. Anyway, so what are you getting up at 3 or 4 to do? What's the first point of business, or is it even business?
So it's not business. So when I'm getting up that early, I'm getting up and I'm going off to the gym, because I like to refer to any time before 5 a.m. as an ungodly hour, and no one can be righteous or hold a coherent conversation or make anything coherent that early in the morning. I think there's a TED Talk on why 4 a.m. is an evil hour. Yeah. It's a good one. You should check it out. There will be a link to that.
I will put. Yes. Thanks for putting links in my show notes, Casey.
You're welcome. No problem.
You're welcome.
It's not my stuff, so it's okay.
Right.
But when I get up that early, I'm going off to the gym. I've got my headphones in. I'm listening to podcasts or some music, and I'm just working out. So doing some cardio, doing some weights, and then I'll hop on the bus and head up to Seattle. And I'll get into, the office, up to 1 or 2 hours early, and I'll bring my own, laptop with me. And that's when I'll get some writing or some work done, or record a podcast interview, and work on the side hustle stuff, and then 8 o'clock rolls around and I start punching the clock and chugging coffee and getting those spreadsheets done.
Nice. Okay, so then, and you enjoy what you're doing. I mean, you really, even if you weren't enjoying it, you'd still do it because it's funding your future dreams. But you do enjoy doing it. I see you taking pictures of coffee and Legos all day. That sounds like that's all you do, but it's not. But you're doing that balance. You're putting in those those hours. And are you doing any kind of get up? How do you? In other words, how do you stay sane? Like, obviously, you're not getting much sleep. you're getting enough sleep. I should put it that way. But if you're, say, at your day job, which is the place that, like, if they were to let you go, would probably be a little bit of an emergency situation. How are you performing optimally for them so that they don't, give you a second glance like, this guy,
Right. Well, I think for me, it really comes back to those priorities. My number one responsibility as a husband and father is to keep the roof over our heads and keep food on the table. And the best way that I can do that is to do my day job to the best of my ability. And so when I find myself, blinking in a conference room during a meeting at 1 p.m., maybe I need to make sure I get to bed on time that evening, and maybe sleep in a little bit and cut the workout short in the morning. Yeah. Or instead of reading or writing on the bus, make sure I grab a nap and ensure that I am doing my day job, because that's my priority. That's my job. That's what they pay me for. And so I really am diligent about making sure that I maintain boundaries and that they don't bleed into each other. So yes, I might post some pictures of coffee and Legos, throughout the day, but the coffee, for one, is fueling my ability to work through all those spreadsheets. But I'm still working hard and doing a good job, even if it's not necessarily something that's in my discipline. I've learned a lot about finance and Excel. I do things in Excel that should not be done.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're practicing discipline regardless. Right. You are working that muscle during the day. And so by doing that, then you get to follow through with that in other areas of your life, which is awesome. And besides, I would think that every time you're taking a picture of, again, Legos or coffee, it's probably because you've just either taken that first sip of that new coffee, however many you've had for the day. Geez, I can't even imagine. And I don't think that your place of work would frown upon coffee breaks, seeing as what it is. So
right. Well, and with the coffee, like, I will say, I am bragging. I'm not going to say not to brag, but there's a fully stocked kitchen on every corner of every floor, and the coffee just flows freely. So I did the math once, and on a slow day, I'll have 2 like normal cups of coffee, but a normal mug is like 12 to 16 ounces. So if I have 2 of those a day and extrapolate that over a year, I drink enough coffee annually to fill a 65-gallon drum. And so it's kind of like I'm a really slowly fueled jet.
Yes.
Nice. That's a lot of coffee.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay, so then, so it also helps you, I assume, from what I'm hearing you say, to have that perspective on your work of what you're doing it for and why you're doing it, and so then, therefore, how you're going to do it, right?
Right.
That's good. And then, so then you, on the way home, you could maybe catch another nap. Is that right?
Right. I catch another nap. It gives me a chance to, jump on social media and, interact with friends and stuff. I use Twitter a lot just for the fun of it. I've been able to connect with people like you and Jim and John Acuff and Jeff Goins and a bunch of folks. And just, it's where I'm able to engage and have conversations. I'm also, as a blogger and a content creator and now a podcaster, like, I want to promote my stuff to a certain level, but for the most part, it's my chance to get in conversation. And so it's, that bus ride home is my opportunity to decompress so that when I walk through the door to my family, I'm not doing work of any sort. I'm not on the phone with, church stuff or, with Starbucks stuff. I am present and I am dad, until the kids go to bed, and then I put on a different hat and keep hustling.
Yeah. So is that what you do then? Is you're out of sight, out of mind with laptop, phone, etc., and through from walk in the door till the kids are asleep?
Yeah, pretty much.
Or at least that would be the aim.
Right, that's the goal. That's the goal. Like that's the optimum scenario. So when I come home, my bag and stuff, we just bought a house last summer, and this is the first time we've had like a dedicated room where all the computer and office type stuff is. And so that stuff goes in there, including my phone most of the time, and the door is shut, and I don't go back in there to mess with that stuff until after the kids go to bed.
Nice. Yeah, that's one of the things that I've been now working out of my home, trying to figure out a balance of is, sometimes, before they go to bed, I have to say to myself, well, can I do this thing, whether it's for the podcast or it's for, Social Media Examiner, can it wait till after they're in bed? And if so, then maybe I should. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, I love your podcast, not to, blow smoke, but I like it because it's not only entrepreneurs, but real guys like me who they're trying to, they're showing up to their day job. They might be trying to hustle on the side to make something happen, and we're not, those one-off stars or whatever, but we're also not just sad. We're not content to stay in a cubicle forever. And so I want to help encourage and reach those guys. And I think one of the biggest things I've learned is to recognize the myth of multitasking.
Yep.
I can't be on my phone doing whatever while I'm sitting with the kids reading a book, or even sitting with the kids watching, SpongeBob or whatever,
Yes.
Or at the dinner table. And equally, I can't be, if I'm trying to focus and get something writing done, I can't have complete chaos going on around me. I need to be able to focus. And surprisingly, there's a lot less chaos when the kids are asleep.
Yeah. Well, so that would be I can tell right now, if I was in your scenario where the kids would go to sleep, and honestly, the temptation would be to say, okay, I want to do some stuff that's, on a computer or technology or something, but I can, how about I sit down and take a break for a bit and, maybe watch a show or something with my wife. And then that just creeps along into bedtime. I'm sure that's probably happened to you, but also how do you make that not happen?
So you just described yesterday.
Right. Hey, it's confession time.
Yeah, it is. I think for us, it's Friends. We love that show. And so you're right. It's our time to decompress. So, we've had a long day at work. We've gotten up early. We've hustled. We worked out. We've done all this stuff. The kids are finally in bed. And, I'm like, oh, hi, wife. How are you? And so we enjoy that time to just sit on the couch together and laugh at a good show like Friends. But you're right that it creeps slowly, and before you know it, 3, 4, 5 episodes have gone by, and you have essentially, wasted more time than you intended. So for me, it's really recognizing I cannot watch TV and be productive. I've tried to, be out in the living room and sit on the couch and watch TV while I'm typing stuff on the computer. And I don't know about you, but I can't do two things at once.
Right.
I can't. You can try and switch between the two, but like if I'm watching, TV, my visual and auditory channels are occupied, and so I can't focus on something else while I'm doing that. So trying to make sure that I'm physically present with my wife, because sometimes she has stuff to do too, but like we like being near each other and hanging out. So if that's turning off the TV and just having music, or sitting in such a position that I'm near her in the same room, but my back's to the TV, I get a lot more done, but we still get to see each other, and trying different hacks, if you will, like that.
Yeah. One of the things that if you're sitting there with your laptop, and I will admit, earlier this week I have done that actually. Mostly because my wife was wanting to watch something and I wasn't, but I wanted to sit in the same room. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't really paying attention to the TV, so I was just watching, or I was just working. But even then, when I wasn't watching, I still wasn't getting stuff done as quickly as I could because of, one, the time of night, and two, the the other auditory distractions and things like that, But if I can imagine, there's no way if you're sitting there trying to get something done and enjoy a television show that one, you're one, not really watching it, and two, you're not really working.
Right. So why don't you just pick one and enjoy that?
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to do that. And I think one thing that you kind of hinted at that I wanted to call out was there's this kind of romantic idea, or
yes,
there's this romantic idea that we, like, creatives operate well at night, like we're night owls. There's this obsession with I'm a night person. We're like, no, you're not. Go to bed, get a full night's sleep, and see how you feel in the morning, and then tell me you're a night person. Like, if you've for like myself, I like staying up late and I like sleeping late. But that's not an option. So if I stay up because I'm a quote unquote night owl, and then I have to get up early in order to get anything done that I really care about, then I'm operating in survival mode and basically with sleep deprivation, and I'm not a benefit to anyone. I'm worthless.
Yeah. It's almost like you're drunk.
Yes, it is.
And angry.
Right?
Every little thing sets you off. I've
yes,
been there.
We're just like children.
Yes.
Like when your kids are acting out, the first, or when my kids are acting out, the first two things I ask are you hungry? Are you tired? And if they cry and say, no, I'm not tired, that's yes. But if they're like, yeah, I'm hungry, I'm like, well, here's a snack. Here's a granola bar. Here's a fruit snack. Here's a banana. Here's something, crackers. Just, throw food at them and hope it sticks. And
inside.
Right. And that, a majority of the time solves the problem. So like when I find myself just hitting a mental roadblock, I'm like, I ask myself, am I tired? Well, yeah, then go to bed. Or am I hungry or thirsty? If you're dehydrated or malnourished, it's going to be difficult for you to focus and produce anything. So I think having self-awareness and understanding your own limitations is a good thing. I think too often we say, or we want to think we can do anything we want, whenever we want, however we want, and that's just not true. We're human beings, we're animals in a sense, and we have physical limitations. We need rest, whether we want to or not. We need food. We need, water. And if we're not paying attention to that health factor, of taking care of ourselves, then we're not going to achieve what we hope to achieve.
Yeah, man. I know we're getting near the end of our time here. I'm trying to think if there's anywhere else we can go. I feel like we walk through a day in the life, in a sense, of you. How then do you kind of, I think you've touched on it a little bit, but if you're in the cycle of, wake early, get through the day, and then unwind and, get to bed, hopefully not incredibly late, and then do it all again, and obviously resetting with your Sunday afternoon naps. Do you have any kind of, when you're working on a project or wanting to start something or finish something, any kind of a cyclical way to approach it? In other words, I guess what I'm really saying is could you go a month where it's like, okay, I'm going to bed at the right time and I'm getting up at 3, but then that's going to be for that month, and then some other month it'll be I'll get up at 5 or 6 or something. You just see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I don't really have a set time necessarily, but there's definitely been kind of seasons of projects and stuff. I think the biggest example was a couple years ago. I did a part-time MBA program and got my MBA through Arizona State University, and while working full-time, and we had 2 kids at that time. And so it was, a lot of boundaries and like sitting down with the family being like, okay, when daddy comes home from work, he will be present and available for family time through dinner, but once dinner's over, he goes into student mode and his books and computer come out on the dinner table, and he'll give you a kiss goodnight and stuff, but there's these boundaries that are in place so that I could complete the program for the benefit of the family. And when those 2 years were over, because it was a 2-year program, I definitely had some chores to catch up on, and
yeah,
it was a different stage for our family. And so anytime I start a new project, I think there's 2 things I do ahead of time is open communication with my wife to make sure that she is aware of my dreams and what I want to do and what I'm trying. I didn't say like, oh, hey, babe, I have a podcast. You should listen to it. Like, she knew what I was doing. She had a heads up, and she is very supportive of that. And then the other thing is to establish habits and routines as much as you can, because that the more you are able to operate on autopilot, your not just your body, but your brain is a muscle and will get used to that. So as I get used to waking up early, it's easier and easier to wake up early, and when I sit down at work at the same time every day, it's easier and easier to make that shift from hustling on the side to, corporate responsibilities, and then at night, when the kids go to bed and I sit down at the computer to do writing or podcast stuff, like, you develop that habit and you get muscle memory, both mentally and physically, of being in that same space to enter into that mode, and your time gets more efficient. So it's not letting chaos reign. There's definitely needs to be some variety, and sometimes they need to introduce a new element. But I think the more habits you can create over time and the more routines you can build into your structure and workflow, the more productive you'll be.
Awesome. I think that's a really good place to end, especially now that you have yet again launched a new thing, the Dad Life Rules podcast, which you can find at dadliferules.com. And where else can they go? Let's remind them.
We're also on Twitter and Facebook at the same thing. So at Dad Life Rules on Twitter and facebook.com/Dad Life Rules.
Awesome. And if people want to connect with you on Twitter, it is
at KC Procter.
Awesome. Casey, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.
Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Beyond the To-Do List. Make sure to let Casey know that you appreciated his visit to this podcast. Go check out the show notes for this podcast at beyondthetodolist.com/80, where you will find links to the Dad Life Rules podcast, or just go look for that in iTunes. And again, make sure to go grab my new book while it's still on sale. Go to beyondthetodolist.com/focus. And again, don't forget, by purchasing that Amazon ebook, you get access to the audiobook for free, read by me. Again, go grab that at beyondthetodolist.com/focus. And if you're not even much of a reader, but you just want the audiobook, that's fine. Look at it as paying for the audiobook instead of the ebook. Either way, you get both copies. Go grab that at beyondthetodolist.com/focus. Thanks again to MailChimp for supporting this episode of Beyond the To-Do List. Make sure to go check them out and sign up with them for all your email management needs. Go to beyondthetodolist.com/MailChimp. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next episode. Beyond the To-Do List is a proud member of the Noodle.mx Network. Find more of our award-winning and award-nominated podcasts to make you think, laugh, and succeed at Noodle.mx. Learn how to podcast. Theorize over the TV shows Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, and Under the Dome. Laugh with our clean comedy, delve into science fiction and philosophy, learn critical thinking from movie reviews, and more at Noodle.mx.